All right, everyone, it's time for it's kind of a grave humor story when you think about it, considering the connotations. A story about Ukraine and BlackRock and Zelensky and all of that. Zelensky has partnered with BlackRock, the housing firm, in order to advise him on how best to use the Reconstruction funding that they're getting from the U.S. and certain European nations to the tune of many tens of billions of dollars. By the way, if you look at the exchange rate, that'll build a lot of fucking commie block apartments over in Ukraine. This is a problem, and I'll tell you why. BlackRock is a shady firm that uses sleazy tactics in order to bilk the U.S. taxpayers, in order to, reduce their overhead, perpetually make money, and gobble up more of the housing market. In some cases, going into an area and effectively overbuying to price out, private competitors at far above market. Really great for a homeowner, but as home costs are rising, they're not making much of a gain because you have Biden-inflation. So you're offered 10% over spot. What fucking difference does it make? You're going to pay 10, 20% more at the end of the year for every good and service, so you've basically broken even. BlackRock takes out limitless federal loans in order to do this, and on paper, of course, is a juggernaut. They have been having some fiscal problems lately along with the rest of the housing market. That's because the prices are deflating. Don't worry about poor little them, though. They're capable of shielding themselves by writing off all of their losses because that's the way that the economy works. It's not really capitalism when you think about it. When you look at BlackRock's recent history, they've even been dragged by some of the leftoids in Congress. When they're the ones that are going to advise on the use of your and my tax money in a foreign country for redevelopment purposes, that number one speaks to corruption. Number two, here's the other problem. What it looks like when Zelensky partners with a group like BlackRock is that he does not intend to ever transition his country back into what we would conceive of as a functioning Republican system of government. This is the same Zelensky that has shuttered Orthodox churches that are tied to Russia and muzzled them, that has banned multiple political parties in the country. It's very intriguing that the legacy media that 2 or 3 years ago would call him effectively Putin light, he's a dictator in waiting. I've got 2 cats here at the moment, hopefully they don't go crazy, that talked about the corruption in Ukraine, which does exist. You can feel sorry for the people of Ukraine without being a Zelensky supporter, to be clear. Sometimes that nuance is lost on people, so if I criticize Zelensky, they'll say that I'm turning into like a Putin puppet or something. Fuck Putin, fuck Zelensky. That would be my opinion. Feel nothing but sorrow for the people on both sides that just want to be left alone. War is always like this. The leaders are the warmongers. They're the fucking war pigs. The average person, the average babushka gathering mushrooms out in the Siberian forest doesn't have anything to do with the Russian war effort, just to be clear. Same is true of the average Ukrainian. Half of them have fucking fled the country. Probably won't even bother to return once they see how good it is in other parts of Europe, by the way. Here's the problem. Zelensky appears to be transitioning himself into a dictator, or at the very least the head of an oligarchic system of government. He does not appear to be inclined, regardless of whether Russia fucks off under the wheels of a bus tomorrow or not, to ever transition away from having gobbled up that power. And this is the perpetual problem of government. You get into a war. You have an existential crisis. Someone has invaded you. So you have the strong man leading you, a military group, some generalissimo or el presidente, whatever it happens to be at the top of the particular structure. And you fight like dogs, and eventually maybe you win against the enemy. The problem is now you've got an entrenched power core with military power, with fiscal power, with diplomatic backing from other countries, East or Western Bloc, by the way, and then you end up with a situation where you have perpetual in-state revolutions. This has happened before. Haiti, for example, 200 years after their War of Independence, they still have not stabilized. Now, you can say, well, that's because they keep having these big earthquakes. A couple times in the last couple centuries, that's a big problem. I think they wouldn't have stabilized anyway. If you look at the political history, though, the one leader that was halfway decent fairly early on was still practically a nut, still purging people, still instituting forced labor. And he was one of their better leaders over time. The fact is, prior to Russia's invasion, Zelensky was doing a nominal good job. but he's still a billionaire oligarch. He still lives that Eastern European totalitarian style of life. He doesn't really give a damn about a free press. That's been muzzled. Apparently religion is also muzzleable in Ukraine, and he does this in an autocratic fashion. Now he's partnering with a firm that openly attempts to bilk people out of their property based in the Western sphere. And what are they going to do when they go in there with tens of billions of dollars? Are they going to say to Zelensky, hey, you should repair people's homes? Yeah, we've got the money. We can advise you on roughly how much it'll cost per plot or per house or whatever, per apartment. You got a lot of things that have been bombed to shit, and especially in the East. And we'll help advise on how you can repair them. Maybe make them green. Hell, you'll get applauded by the people at the next climate change meeting or something. Big accolades. That's not what's going to happen. What's going to happen is that areas that have been leveled are going to be redeveloped and look totally different. This is the way you can maximize the tax revenue. This is the way you can attract foreigners to live in your country once the Russians have been contained. This is the way in which you can compact more people into the same area to control them more effectively. Hey, this is a new design for this building that'll allow you to extract more tax money. A little bit more decor. People will love it, if they can afford it. I guarantee that it's not going to go to help the average person in Ukraine. Again, this video will be panned by some people as Putin apologism. Oh, Styx has flipped. He supports the Kremlin. He's a commie. He supports Moscow now. Yes, clearly it's impossible to be against war in general and have any nuance. Nuance is lost because it's discouraged by the legacy media and by politicians. Presenting a one-sided picture of Russia v. Ukraine, using Putin generally as the example on one side while using average Ukrainians on the other. You will note this linguistic disparity is sort of the name of the game. You have to create one-sided caricatures to use propaganda. The classic image of the Jew or the black, or in this case, in modern times, the white. Suspenders wearing, MAGA hat, toting a shotgun around, half illiterate, etc., bad teeth. The Alabama redneck trope, I suppose. These things are all one-sided caricatures. They're done for a reason. Look at any political cartoon that depicts Donald Trump or Joe Biden. You'll see what I mean, whether it's supportive or antagonistic towards them. Zelensky, partnering with BlackRock, is a bellwether that good things are probably not to come in Ukraine, regardless of who wins the war. And I speculate that nobody really wants to end the war anyway. Russia is building up energy partnerships with India and China, fortifying its ability to continue making money well into the future. The Western world is using the struggle to get kickbacks. You send $45 billion to Ukraine, a few billion comes back into the pockets of Congress, of course, to expand U.S. presence there, presumptively to monitor the Russians more directly. Now, they like the fact that they can be closer to Moscow now, and to build new weapons, and to justify the cost. It's hard to sell to the public that we need a new jet fighter when it's peacetime now, isn't it? Oh my God, $500 billion to develop this new helicopter? That seems too much. But those Russians are working on something similar. We better fucking pony up. Just belly up to the bar, boy. That's the way that it works within politics. And people are lemmings and they don't even realize it's what's happening. Yeah, Zelensky partnering with BlackRock. Totally unexpected. It's going to go over so well and help so many fucking Ukrainians. That's about all. Peace out.